Okay, so now that you have a little bit better understanding of some of the basics of what your browser is doing when we're typing in URLs, let's make something slightly more interesting now using some Java code. Now, the first thing I want to do though actually is we're going to install a couple of plugins for our browser for Chrome users. Okay, Chrome is really like kind of the industry standard anyway in many respects. All right, so the first thing though is I'm going to stop using Safari now, and I'm going to switch over to Chrome because it has better general support for a lot of the standard plugins of web application development. Okay, it's not that you can't do these things with Safari, but we might as well get used to doing more of our web development work in the industry standard browser now, which is Chrome. So I'm going to open up Chrome. Okay, so I've got Chrome here, and I've already entered a search criteria here. So you want to search for install live reload plugin, as I have here. And once you've got that, then you can come down here to the second link here, chrome.google.com live reload. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to click this button here, add to Chrome. Add extension. All right, and so it has been added, and there it is right there. I'm going to click this little icon here of a jigsaw puzzle, I guess, puzzle piece, and there's my live reload. So the first thing I'm going to do is pin this so that it will always show up here. So I will just click on that little picture there. All right, and so there's my live reload. All right, and so now I can close this tab. And I'm going to open up another tab now, and I'm going to just go right back to my localhost :8080 and junk.html. All right, so there's my hello world again. So this live reload plugin will be quite handy when we start going kind of back and forth with making code changes and then wanting to see those changes quickly in the browser. So the plugin basically will just allow the browser to kind of automatically refresh itself so that we shouldn't need to manually click a refresh button every time we want to see a change. All right, so now let's go ahead and make something a little bit more interesting, slightly more interesting at least. Okay, so I'm jumping back over here to the IDE now, and we're going to go ahead and create some code, some explicit code now. And the first thing I think I will do is to create a new package under this comneutrinosys.peopledb web, okay? So the first package I'm going to create, so I'm going to do a new package, and I think I'm just going to call this package web. Now I'm going to tell you now, I don't normally create a web package, but I'm going to do so right now because I want to be kind of more explicit and obvious for you as to some of the standard layers of where my code is going, and I will explain those layers a little bit later, but I want to hurry up and get some code written here because I know I've talked enough already. All right, so there's web, and then under here I'm going to make another package. So I'm going to do another new package, and this one will be called controller. All right, and now I'm going to make a new class, Java class, and this will be called people controller new. All right. Okay, and so now I'm going to put a bunch of stuff in here. Let's see, where do I want to start? I guess I'll start at the top. So you can just follow along and I will explain these things that we're doing a little bit later. But first thing I'm going to do is put an annotation here. Let's see, request mapping. And I'm going to put inside of here some quotes, and we'll call this people. Just like that. Then inside of this class, I will create a method that will return a string. And for now, I will just call this method getPeople, like so. And I will have this method return a string called people. All right. And then I'm going to annotate this method with an annotation called getMapping, like so. All right. And then over here, we're going to create a new file under the templates folder. So I'm going to create a new file, and this will also be an HTML file, and I will call it people.html. And here I will name it people. And here, let's just put another hello world style message for right now, real quick here. So we'll say something like, I don't know, well, maybe not hello world, but maybe here are some people, maybe something like that, okay? And that's all we're gonna do first. Now, let me rearrange my windows just a little bit here if I can. It's gonna be a little tough because I don't have a whole lot of room to work with, but yeah, I think that might work okay. All right, so we've got all of that done. So I'm going into the people controller here, and I need one more really important annotation. It doesn't matter if I put it above or below the request mapping, but I prefer to put it above. I need an at controller mapping here. All right, and again, I will explain what these all do in just a moment, okay? And so now I will do another Command F9, and we might see, there we go, yeah. We've got some stuff scrolling by there. Okay, now if we come down here to the browser and refresh, there we go. Okay, so now we see these words. Here are some people. So let me explain very briefly what is the difference between putting an HTML file under static versus under templates. The basic gist is if you want to have HTML that is dynamic and controlled from our Java code, then you need to put that HTML under templates, okay? Because this will allow us to feed some dynamically generated content into this page and make a more interesting web page, essentially. Whereas static web pages, that is HTML pages that we put under the static folder here, are not capable of being fed data from our Java code directly. I'll put it that way, because there are some tricks that we could do with JavaScript where we could request data even from the static pages, but I don't know that we'll be getting into any of that in this section, okay? All right, so that's the first part though. All right, so now though, let's actually put a little bit of something dynamic in here, okay? So what I'm going to do now is, let's see here. So we've got the web.controller package. So let's make another package under the main com.neutrinosys package. And I'm going to call this one, I don't know, biz, short for business. In fact, we can go ahead and just make a couple of packages all at once. Biz.model. Okay, so we're going to make a simple domain model class now, okay? And then under biz.model, make a new class, Java class, and let's call it person. So we've done this many times in this course already, okay? And hit enter. All right, and let's see. So let's have a few fields. Let's have a string for the first name, and a string for the last name, and a local date, and a local date for a date of birth, and a big decimal for a salary. And what am I forgetting here? I know I'm forgetting something, but that's okay. I will remember it later. Okay, that's enough. Now, normally at this point, since we're working with a class and not a record, I'd let the IDE generate my getters and setters and all that good stuff, right? That's what I would normally do. However, now that we're using the Spring framework with Spring Boot and we got all this cool added functionality here, we can do something a little more interesting. We're going to use a special annotation from a library called Lombok. And the annotation we will use is called @data. And so what this annotation will do is that it will allow the Lombok library to scan this class, find these fields, and generate getters and setters and a constructor and an equals and a hash code and a toString method all for us whenever we need it. Okay, so we're getting all of that for free now, and all we had to do is just specify the fields that we want, okay? So it's a super convenience. And so I think for right now, we're gonna be done with this class. Oh, I know one thing I was forgetting is the ID. Yeah, let's throw the ID in here, type long, and we'll make it an ID. Okay, cool. All right, so now let's jump over here to the controller class. And what we want to do is we're going to first just make a few dummy people right here inside of this get people method. And we're going to have those dummy people kind of show up in the browser, very simplistically for right now. But believe me, by the time we get to the end of this section, it's going to be doing all kinds of stuff. All right, so let's see here. So let's just create a, I don't know, maybe a list of some people. So we'll do like a new person, and I will import that class and do a command P, and I'm not getting any parameters because I forget this every single time. So I need to jump back over here to the person class, and we need to throw at least one more annotation on here. So we'll throw a, what is it, all args constructor on here. Let's see if that's enough. There we go. Yes, that's what we needed. The all args constructor. So let me just tell you what that did. Let me explain that really quickly. So the @data annotation did give us a constructor, but it gave us a no arg default constructor. But if we want an additional constructor that allows us to specify all of the arguments, then we need to also add in the all args constructor, which is what I just did there. Okay, so now I can start specifying these parameters. So I'm just gonna, I don't know, do like a 10L, comma, and this and yeah, that's fine. I'll call them people. Now, if I want to get this data into the browser here, I will need to pass it into something called a model. And I'm not going to explain super deeply right this minute what that is, but I need to have a model. And then I will pass this data into that model, and then that model will in turn get passed to the, not to the browser, but to the code that I'm not having to write that renders out the final template, okay, the final version of the template, okay? So to get my hands on this model, think of the model as a bucket. It's just a bucket into which I can put pretty much whatever I want, okay? So I am going to get myself a model here, and I will call it model. Now, the Spring MVC framework is we'll see that I have done these annotations. By the way, these annotations are all part of the Spring MVC framework, okay? And this model class here is also part of the Spring MVC framework. Spring will see that I have said that I want this method to get called with a model, and the Spring MVC framework will actually create this model and then pass it to me, okay? To my code, rather. All right, so then what I can do is I can call model.add attribute, and then I can name this list something like people. That would make a lot of sense. And then I can bind it to this variable. So what I'm saying is essentially take my list of people and bind it to a holding tank inside of this model thing called people. Really, you can think of the model as a map, okay? We learned about maps or hash maps, things like that, right? You have key value pairs. So the key is this word people, and then the value is this list of people, okay? So it's really essentially kind of a map. All right, so now I can jump back over to this people.html file here. And I'm going to keep this relatively simple for right now, but we will make it much more complex, and it'll look great eventually, but not right now. So what I will do now is I will use a special HTML. I will use one of the many HTML tags to show a list of things. And the tag that I will use here is, I don't know, ordered list. Okay. And then I will have a list item. So that would be like one item in the list, my junk person, okay? So this will serve as kind of a template for what I kind of would like to have displayed. And I will go ahead and now restart the application. Okay. Now, what I would like to have happen in general is that whenever I restart the application and make changes of this sort, that this content down here would update. And now I should be able to come over here to this live reload and enable it. All right. So hopefully after I reload this, okay, so there's my one person. Now this is just hard coded, right? But now we're going to make it dynamic. So I'm going to update this now. Oh, now in order to do this, we're going to have to update a few other things here. So there is a templating language that is kind of an add-on, if you will, for this HTML that we're doing here, okay? And one of the things that we added when we were on the start.spring.io site, we had to add a bunch of dependencies. One of the dependencies we chose was something called Thymeleaf. So Thymeleaf is a templating library that allows us to templatize HTML, and it comes with a lot of special tags and attributes of HTML that we can utilize to generate more dynamic content within a browser. And I bet a lot of what I just said might not mean very much to you yet, but you'll start to see it. So we're going to allow this web page to make use of the Thymeleaf tags and attributes, okay? So to do that, I'm first going to open up another tab, and I will simply type in here Thymeleaf and .org. And by the way, that's T-H-Y-M-E, leaf, Thymeleaf. Okay, so we're on the Thymeleaf website here. And let me break this tab out and make it bigger for right now. Okay. All right, and we will go to Docs for documentation. And then we will come down here to Thymeleaf 3.0. That's the most current version as of the time of this recording. But the main thing is that we're just looking for the documentation. So read online. All right, and then over here, I'm going to click on the template engine. And that just helps me to zoom in on what I'm really looking for, which is basically just some starting configuration stuff that I need. Okay, so right here in the HTML that you see, we've got what's called an attribute here, and I'm going to copy all of that. So this XMLNS, all of that, up to and including the closing quotation mark there. So I'm copying that. Then I will jump back into the browser, and I will go to this browser's HTML tag, and I will put my cursor, and it doesn't really matter if I put the cursor after the language en or before it, but somewhere inside of this HTML tag, I will paste that XMLNS. Basically what we're doing here is you can think of it as the HTML equivalent of an import statement, okay? What we're basically saying is we want to import a bunch of custom tags that come from the Thymeleaf library. And whenever we use those tags, we will refer to them throughout our document by starting with this prefix of th, okay? So we're importing those special custom tags under the th namespace, if you will, okay? But you can think of this whole thing here as kind of like the HTML equivalent of doing an import statement, okay? Something very similar to that. Okay, and I think that's all we will need from Thymeleaf for right now, other than periodically checking in on some of the references and things, okay? So now what we want to do is we know that we've got this list of people inside of a model variable called people, okay? And we want to basically just display each of those people as a list item here, okay? So let me just open back up the people page now. So I want the people page and the browser at the same time so that we can see things that are changing in real time. Okay, so the way we will do this is we will implement the Thymeleaf /HTML equivalent of a for loop, okay? So just as we could have an enhanced for loop that would loop over the items in a list, we can do the HTML equivalent of that right here. And the way we will do that is by putting our cursor inside of this list item tag here, space, th:/each equals, and then very similarly to the enhanced for loop, we will specify a variable name for each instance or for each item in the collection. So here we can refer to something like person and then a colon. So it does look a fair bit like the enhanced for loop from Java. And then we will specify the name of the collection that we want to iterate over. Now, the way we do this, though, is a little bit special. We will use a $sign and then an opening and closing curly brace. And then inside of here, we will specify the name of the variable that contains our collection or our list of people that we bound to the model. Okay, so all that is people. Now this people here is coming from right here, okay? Or actually right here. All right, so this model.add attribute people, this is the name that we use to refer to this collection of people, okay? That's where that's coming from. And so that's what we're doing here. And so now what we can do is we can use another Thymeleaf attribute, th:\text equals $, curly brace, person. So now what this is going to do is, first off, this each is going to extract one person at a time from this people collection and store it in a variable called person. Then we are going to use this th:\text attribute to basically display this, whatever that person was. So this is in effect going to call the toString method of the person class, okay? Now what this th:\text attribute actually does, though, is it takes whatever text we are referring to here and it replaces this with whatever is here. So if this is going to call the toString method of each instance of a person, then the output of that toString method is what's going to display here. And I'm so sorry, I know I'm saying a lot of words. I hope you're following me, but let's go ahead and just run it and maybe it will be even more obvious. I think you can intuitively kind of see where I'm going with this, okay? So to get this to run now, all I should need to do is a command F9 to restart my server. And look at that, we updated down here instantaneously. So you can see that this is a typical toString method output of the person class, right? That's what we just got there. Now this isn't where we're going to leave it. I just wanted to do something relatively simple just to get started here, okay? We will eventually make this look really, really nice. All right, and so let's go ahead and stop with this lesson, and in the next lesson we'll do a little bit more and we'll go a little further, okay? So I'll see you in the next one. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this content and you'd like to help me out, there are several ways you could do that. First, you can always click the like and subscribe. That'll help me out a lot. Additionally, another way you can help me out is to check the link in the description below. That'll link you to my website where you can find additional courses. And finally, for those of you who might be interested in starting a new career as a professional software developer, I offer a free PDF guide that will detail exactly how you can get started in this field with no college degree and no prior experience. All you need to do is click on the link in the description below. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.